I'm delighted to be here to talk to you about our work in France on strengthening of CLIL practice within schools. So my presentation will focus on recommendations for strengthening CLIL practice. These recommendations come from an international workshop we organized last November, which I will briefly introduce to give you some elements of background. I will then present a selection of suggestions that come from the newly published CLIL in Practice report, which is the result of this workshop. And I will finish by sharing some additional resources to go further into CLIL implementation and practice. I'll go into the international workshop, which we held in November 2025. On maximizing learning outcomes linked to CLIL in primary and secondary education. And this was the second workshop we've run with France Éducation Internationale. And it was a great success, bringing together 120 participants from 14 countries, mainly based in Europe, Africa, and North America. And participants came from a variety of countries, but also backgrounds and roles. They were teachers, teacher educators, school leaders, researchers, and policymakers at different stages of their CLIL journeys. And this provoked very rich and insightful discussions. And perhaps some of you here today were part of the conversation, so let us know in the chat. We were also very fortunate to have participants from a wide range of institutions. So the Ministry of the French Ministry of Education, the Council of Europe, the Goethe Institute, with whom we are pleased to collaborate again today. And the event brought all these participants together around design thinking sessions that helped share common challenges and generate practical ideas on the development and implementation of CLIL. And so the results of these sessions are actually what I will be talking to you today. They're presented in this report, which is called CLIL in Practice. It's a bilingual English and French publication, and it brings together practical reflections from the participants of the workshop. It covers 9 themes relevant to CLIL, going from creating a bilingual program to balancing disciplinary skills and integrating cultural dimensions into CLIL courses. It's free to download via the QR code that you see on your screen. So I'd like to share with you some of the advice that the workshop participants put together. It's worth noting that these are not official British Council recommendations, but they're collaborative ideas designed to spark discussions. One area we chose to focus on was how to best promote CLIL within the school community. Our participants agreed collectively on the following recommendations. Ensure clear communication around the CLIL program with all stakeholders. That includes learners, parents, teachers, education officials, community leaders, etc. And ways to do that include using a CLIL logo, information sheets, Q&A sessions, and visual displays to foster a shared understanding of the project. As an example, here's a picture of the signage in front of an elementary school in central Paris, whose slogan is public, bilingual, and for all. And this really sets the tone for those entering the school, as well as for the wider community surrounding the school. Programs are much more likely to succeed when the rationale and the objectives have been clearly communicated. The second recommendation was to provide official recognition of the CLIL pathway. And that's done through graduation ceremonies and certificates for students, but also through the school, through a label, and also recognizing the hard work of CLIL teachers. And it serves not only to validate students' abilities but also teachers' investments. And it's also a tool with which to leverage support from budget holders and local officials. The third recommendation was to measure and share the impact of the program. And that's in terms of learning outcomes, social inclusion, student pathways, and community engagement. And so involving local universities and researchers can help with this because it's really important that this kind of evidence having this type of documented evidence really helps defend CLIL programs from potential external and internal criticism. And finally, ensure that all teachers with the schools have the opportunity to take part in the program. Even if they're not directly teaching CLIL, they can still get involved in the CLIL project through peer observation, mobility schemes, training, and certification. Identifying professional practice was another theme that we asked participants to look at. And they identified the following tips. Share ownership of the CLIL initiative across the entire school community. So this is related to the earlier theme, but making CLIL a whole school project is an effective practice to make sure that languages continue to thrive outside the classroom. And it's also the whole school that recognizes the efforts of CLIL teachers and supports them. Plan consciously for classes that are inclusive of all learners, irrespective of their proficiency in the language of teaching and learning or their home language backgrounds. This requires deliberate scaffolding activities and differentiation techniques, and Professor Lysons kind of touched upon that. Encourage collaboration between colleagues. And so this is especially relevant in secondary schools between language and content teachers, but it's also a good practice for elementary. CLIL teaching blurs the boundaries between language and content classes, and effective collaboration among teachers is key to that. Redesign lessons for the CLIL context rather than simply translating them. This means ensuring that lessons integrate both content and language through student-centered activities that allow for active learning, and that's the heart of the CLIL approach. To help you with this, the British Council has designed a lesson plan template dedicated to CLIL, which allows you to plan for clear outcomes in relation to content, communication, which is language, cognitive, which is language as a tool of thinking, as said by Professor Lyson, and culture. Balancing between disciplinary and language skills is at the heart of CLIL classes, and participants in our workshop recommended on this topic discuss key concept in both the target language and learners' main languages to consolidate learning outcomes. The idea is that languages can reinforce each other, and there are strategies to use both of them in the CLIL classroom. Use a backward design approach. That means working from clearly defined final objectives while ensuring that key knowledge and language are revisited and reinforced at different stages of the lesson and across sequences. Create language-rich classroom spaces by displaying posters, text, images, and student work to scaffold the learning of useful language. For examples of this and the use of subject-specific language, I invite you to watch or rewatch the webinar on this published on the British Council's Teaching English YouTube page. And use exit tickets. This is usually a short task or prompt that students complete at the end of class to reflect on what they've learned. It's not an assessment. It helps to check understanding of key concepts and to gauge how students feel about the lesson. Encouraging oral communication and interaction in class is a hot topic in all language classes, and of course it is so in CLIL classrooms. Workshop participants made the following recommendations. Create a safe learning environment in which positive reinforcement enables students to feel completely comfortable expressing themselves without fear of making language mistakes. Look for opportunities for real life communication in the target language, whether that be through virtual exchanges with schools in other countries or through conversations with language assistants or even members of the local community. The British Council's School Connect platform actually allows you to find and partner with schools in the UK. And the UK joining back Erasmus Plus is excellent news in facilitating these types of exchanges. Maximize classroom interaction. That means plan for collaborative activities that encourage learner to speak in pairs and small groups. And ensure lessons are carefully designed to provide scaffolding for oral production. And that's about anticipating vocabulary needs in terms of meaning, form, use, and pronunciation. And we will actually organize a webinar dedicated to this topic in January next year, which I will tell you more about at the end. You're probably teaching in classes where your students are exposed to several languages at home and with their communities that may or not be similar to your CLIL target language. And CLIL classrooms are actually an opportunity to celebrate and leverage student multilingualism. To do this, develop a shared whole school definition of what it means to be multilingual and be explicit about raise awareness of the benefits of speaking several languages through whole school project that can showcase learners' languages. Resist the hierarchization of students' languages, by which some languages are considered more valuable or useful than others. And that creates a safe space in which everyone feels comfortable using their full linguistic repertoires. Design projects that explicitly incorporate multilingual practices and make these explicit within the learning process. And if you want to explore this topic further, I invite you to connect to the British Council's Teaching English platform, which provides a free training pathway dedicated to using multilingual practices and includes tools and resources to help you in your classroom. And again, involve parents and the local community to share and to celebrate languages spoken outside the classroom. And finally, CLIL is about language, content, and it's also about culture. And the final theme I will cover today is that of integrating cultural dimensions into CLIL courses. The first recommendation is about exploring the range of cultures from around the world that are linked to the language of learning and seizing opportunities to make links with students' own experiences and cultures whenever possible. Make culture a sensory rather than a theoretical experience. Explore cultural domains such as food, drinks, sports, music, and dance. Organize thematic events that bring the school community together around a specific cultural moment or event, for instance. And favor project-based approaches that are pluridisciplinary, plurilingual, pluricultural, and that anchor learning within a specific time, culture, and place. Professor Lyson actually presented an excellent example of this with the water cycle experiment. And there are plenty of resources to help you bring culture into the classroom. And I invite you to explore the British Council's Teaching English website, which has free, authentic resources such as songs, books, and videos. It also has a complete project-based activities and lessons that use authentic materials. And you will also find ready-made cultural activities on France Éducation Internationale's Fil du Plurilingue website. So unfortunately, I won't have time to go through all of the recommendations, but I highly encourage you to download the report and so you can read more about the practical reflections that came out of the international workshop. And just to go a little further into the reflection, I wanted to share with you the fact that the report is one of the outcomes that came out of the workshop. But we have a dedicated webpage where you'll also be able to find recordings of roundtable discussions that took place, um, posters from participants illustrating CLIL in a variety of countries, as well as ongoing research and available resources, some of which I presented today. You'll also find blog articles from participants reflecting on the event and interviews with experts in the field of CLIL. And you'll see here, there's some videos of the experts, the policymakers, and the researchers that provided insights into their contexts, their research, and who shared their learnings from the workshop. And of course, we are continuing to support the professional development of CLIL teachers across France and beyond. I mentioned some webinars we've been organizing since 2024, and our next webinar series on creating dynamic CLIL classes will take place in January and February 2027. It's all taught online on 4 consecutive Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6:30. And this series will focus on teacher strategies for the CLIL classroom, from clarifying meaning and pronunciation, giving out instructions, planning lessons, purposefully using the languages available in the classroom to support learning. They will be facilitated by international experts on CLIL and prepared with support from pedagogical advisors across France. The webinars will all be in English, but they're relevant to teachers doing CLIL in other languages, so you're all very welcome to join. See the QR code to register, and I think Thibaut is also sharing a link in the chat. And on the webpage that he's sharing, you'll also find a link to all the previous webinars in the series. So to close, I just wanted to share a quote from a participant at our international workshop who said that progress in CLIL comes not from uniformity, but from sustained dialogue around shared goals. Creating space for those conversations, as this international workshop did, is what turns shared practice into lasting momentum. And that's from Dr. Deverk Rutgers from Sheffield Hallam University. And you can read her full blog on the link on this screen. And so I hope that this colloquium also builds the lasting momentum into CLIL.